Hi guys, we've heard a lot about outsourcing over the years, where a government department or private business hires an external supplier to do work on their behalf. For example, cleaning or catering services may be outsourced. This is where a private company, using their own staff and equipment, provide a service to the customer at a cost. Insourcing, while similar, instead uses existing infrastructure and equipment to provide a service perhaps out of hours. Now, this is part of the big drive Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, is taking to bring down the NHS waiting list. Here, Dr. Grace Patterson explains the problem with insourcing at the NHS.
Did you know that private companies can now come into the NHS and use NHS facilities and NHS equipment in order to deliver NHS care, but they're able to create a profit? There's this thing called NHS insourcing that not many people are talking about at the moment, and what's happening is private companies are taking on facilities like operating theatres out of hours, and they're using the resources, the equipment, the facilities, and they're often hiring NHS staff in order to carry out the work as well, and they're paying NHS staff better rates of pay than they would be paid in their NHS jobs. And they're allowed to do this because the NHS is desperate to bring down waiting lists. But if the NHS itself just paid staff better to do the work, they could get the work done anyway, and we wouldn't need a private company coming in and creating a profit off the top of it all. It makes absolutely no sense. It's being hailed as a brilliant way of bringing down our waiting lists, but the public service should be the thing bringing down the waiting lists, and it should be supporting the staff.
It should be supporting the staff here. Dr. Julie is correct. Look, this insourcing, of course, is going to be more expensive than actually hiring NHS staff, as was pointed out here. Some NHS staff will be asked to work for these private companies. They'll be paid more, but then this cost is passed on to the NHS. So it's more expensive because a company wants to make a profit. These are private organizations that are driven by profit. So it's going to be more expensive. Now, there are other issues. Some insourcing companies may want to use more experienced staff for other enterprises. So not sending the best people to work in the NHS, but maybe they're sending their best people to work in other private clinics. So the NHS may lose out here when it comes to the best available staff. There are operational risks which are higher, of course, with insourcing companies, be them fraud, employment practices, and workplace safety. Who is responsible if there are mistakes made? Will it be the NHS or the insource provider? So if somebody is harmed in an operation, who will take responsibility for that? This also discourages the NHS from training up staff and recruiting more, as they may become too reliant on these insource providers. And then also we have to look at who is providing these services. Have these service providers any connections to the government, to the Labour Party? We hope that they will be selected based on merit. But once again, as Dr. Julia has pointed out, this work should be done by the NHS staff. They're using NHS infrastructure. This should not be handed over to private companies. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.